Okay, hi once again, everybody. As she mentioned, we're starting a new series tonight, which will lead us right up to Thanksgiving. And the series is called the Recovery Toolbox. So I'm going to start off tonight by talking a lot about one of my favorite prayers, which is one of the big things in the toolbox, and it's the Serenity Prayer. But I want to start off by doing a reading from the language of letting go. And I posted this on Facebook this morning. Our relationship with ourselves is the most important relationship we need to maintain. The quality of that relationship will determine the quality of all of our other relationships. We can tell ourselves how we feel and accept our feelings, then we can share them with others. We can accept what we think and believe and accept what's important to us, we can relay that to others. We learn to take ourselves seriously, others will too. We learn to chuckle at ourselves, we're ready to laugh with others. We have learned to trust ourselves. We feel trustworthy and ready to trust. We can be grateful for those who we are. We have achieved self-love. We have achieved self-love in accepting our wants and needs. Be ready to give and receive love. And we learn to stand on our own 2 feet, ready to stand next to someone. They will focus on having a great relationship with myself. I wanted to share that because what I want to spend some time on in the weeks to come is what I refer to as the Recovery Toolbox. See, I've learned something about recovery, and it is the big, gigantic things that really give us the gift of recovery. It's the little things. It's the little phrases, the little statements, the little things that actually put things together for us. So what I did, you find this on the web, under Vince's Corner on the website, and we put together 60 different little slogans and sayings that come from AA, they come from Al-Anon, they come from many of the other 12-step programs. But they're just simple little statements. And this idea came to me way back when I was in my other eating disorder program. My sponsor, Richard, and every once in a while when he would come to the meeting, he'd bring his toolbox with him. He actually used to carry a regular toolbox, one of those smaller ones. And what he did was he took 60 cards, put a slogan on every card, and put them inside the toolbox. And what he does as part of his daily work, in the morning when he gets up, he goes into his toolbox and takes one card out. And that is the slogan for the day, whatever it might be. And as a result, then he then takes that and puts it aside and goes through the toolbox and he does all 60 slogans, and he puts them back in, mixes them up, and starts them again. What I learned from him, and I learned from a lot of people in recovery, it's those simple little statements that really keep us in the loop. They keep us in the program. One of the ones I use all the time, is one of my favorite ones, is don't worry about it. Why worry? Some of the other simple slogans you'll hear me talk more about during the weeks to come. Easy does it. Take it easy. One day at a time. But for the grace of God, we never know where we are and what's going on. But the one thing that he put together in the toolbox are the words that are connected to the Serenity Prayer. I will never forget him, God rest his soul. We lost Richard. He was killed in a motorcycle accident at a very young age. It's a shame. But he was also a therapist at Starting Point, too. He was a good man. But the beautiful thing he used to do all the time is, when I first came into the eating disorder program, and he was my sponsor, and he said to me, I want you, part of your assignment, I want you to repeat the Serenity Prayer at least 21 times a day. I said, 21 times a day? Why? Just do it. He was the kind of sponsor that said, you don't ask me why, you just do what I tell you to do. I used to love Richard because when I first entered the program, he gave me questions on the big book of AA. 7 sets of questions. I still have them in my file cabinet here. And every day, here's kind of sponsor I had. I had to call him at 6 a.m. in the morning. And Richard would say, don't call me at 6:01 because I won't answer the phone. You call me at 6 a.m. on the nose. You write the answer out to one of those questions. You read the answer to me, and you give me your food plan for the day. Then before you go to bed, at exactly 10 o'clock at night, not 10:01, you call me again, and you let me know how you made out for the day. I had to do that with him for 2 years. The good, beautiful thing about it was answering all those questions. And they were very simple questions, not complicated. But I had to do research in the big book to be able to answer them. And as a result, it's one of the reasons why I have such a knowledge of the big book today, and I'm connected to it today. Because he believed in the concept. You take these little sayings and you say them over and over and over again. They become part of your vocabulary. They become part of your life. And as a result, then you begin to live them. And the amazing part about it is I still, believe it or not, sometimes dream even some of this stuff. It's totally amazing. Talk about really learning it and putting it into your head. But I've learned over the years that it's the little things that make things beautiful. And so I want to share with you some of the words and things he connected to that prayer, the Serenity Prayer. And believe it or not, that prayer, everything contained in it is the formula for recovery. It is, I call it the prayer of life. It's so powerful. And believe it or not, it gives us every little aspect we need to be able to connect with. The prayer begins with a very simple word. The word is God. God, grant me the serenity. We ask in prayer, we ask our higher power, we ask God, our divine presence, whatever we choose to call it. Even in the program, if worse comes to worse, just call it good orderly direction, whatever you got to call it. But the bottom line is we're asking for guidance, we're asking for direction, but above all, we're learning one of the simple philosophies of life. I have to ask for serenity, for inner peace. And I learned something from that. That word serenity, inner peace. You really can't need that inside of yourself if you are to truly be able to live this prayer. So every day I've got to ask God when I get up in the morning, the God of my understanding, grant me the serenity today. Grant me the peace today to be able to accept the things I cannot change. Here comes that word again, the word acceptance. See, I've learned over the course of the journey in life, there are 4 basic spiritual words, and these words are powerful. And again, we're able to accept these and look at these and make them part of our journey. Then we're able to live a peaceful life. The first 2 spiritual words are supposed to. Why am I where I am today in the course of my journey in life? Because it's exactly where you're supposed to be. Why did I go through the things I went through in life? Because I was supposed to go through them. Why do I have an addiction? Because I was supposed to. Supposed to. Now, once I'm able to come to peace with that and sense of serenity, then I'm able to accept the reality of who I am, what I am, where I am, and being able to open up my heart and my mind to where things need to take me. And that is the beautiful part about that prayer, to accept the things I cannot change. I cannot change another human being. I am powerless. The only journey I can work on is me. And so we learn in the beginning part of that Serenity Prayer, to stay out of other people's faces, stay out of their business, stay out of judgment. And I joke a lot about this, I know it. Codependents were the only people on the face of the earth that do the fourth step first. See, we don't do the first three steps, we do the fourth step. The only problem is we use the fourth step to take everybody else's inventory because we're scared to look at our own. And I've learned over the years, and believe me, you're looking at somebody here who tried to save and fix everybody in the world. I really thought it was my job. I realize now I wasn't God. But it's amazing some of the crazy things that we do. You heard me say this before. When I got ordained a priest, I decided I was going to save everybody, the whole world. I was going to give it a hell of a shot. Well, after, beating myself up with a wonderful addiction, I then decided, after I quieted down a little bit, just to save the United States. And that was a pretty big job. Then, after having a nervous breakdown and time in the psychiatric hospital, I decided maybe I'll just save New Jersey. That's a full-time job. And it only took me till I was in my 40s, from age 26, to finally realize I can't save anybody else. I can't fix anybody else. I can't rescue anybody else. It's not my job. And that's why the second part of the Serenity Prayer, courage to change the things I can. You see, I've learned over and over again, and this is the hardest thing to do. And believe me, it's hard for me because I work with people every day. And sure, I would love to give them quick answers to everything, but I can't do that. I have to allow them to find the answers for themselves. I can only be a guide. That's all I can be. And that's frustrating, especially when you're a card-carrying codependent the way I am. Because, I know right away, as soon as I work with them, the bell goes off. I know right away exactly what they should do. I think we've all been there. But then I have to zip it and just be open to listen and let them find the way. Because it's their journey, not mine. As a result, then I have to have courage. And that's another special word. It's because courage means, and the most courageous people on the face of this earth are the people that have the courage to look within their own selves and to work on themselves. That is a courageous person. Guy gets on a motorcycle and flies across a ravine. That guy's not courageous. He's nuts. It's a big difference between the two. But courage is something that comes from the inside, from your spirit. And it means to take a look at yourself, to get to know yourself. The reading today was perfect for all this. To really take time to realize the fact that we are on this earth for a purpose. Why? Because every one of us is supposed to be here. We were sent here on a journey. And I got to be open to the journey. And all I can do on the journey is share the gift that's been given to me. I can share it. I can, like they say, I can carry a message. I can share what things mean for me. I had the wonderful opportunity this past weekend. On Sunday, I got to speak over at the 400 Club, the AA Clubhouse. And I got to be able to talk a lot about the simple little things of recovery in my own life. And then yesterday, I got to speak up in Lumberton, New Jersey. I got to speak at another AA anniversary. And it was wonderful because I got to meet people there that I've seen from 25 years, 30 years ago. People, all the hugs, everything. It was just a fantastic day. And I love all this because I realize more and more now. It's the energy that we have, that we connect to others. And that's where spirit comes into play. Because deep down inside, if you're courageous and you really have a sense of yourself and have a relationship with yourself as a person, then you begin to realize the fact, I've got something to give to others that I can share with others. And my spirit talks to others. Yes, we're going to go through because I've learned to truly work on yourself is realize we do have a dark side and we have a light side. And we go through darkness, we go through struggle, we go through pain, we go through loss, we go through a lot of things in life. But we have to be able to work our way through them to discover the other side of them. For every negative, there's a positive. And so I'm learning as you work on ourselves and develop a sense of ourselves. And the prayer tries to tell us that, to have the courage and the strength, a little bit at a time, to learn, to grow. And that's one of my famous statements that Richard used to say. He used to say, a little bit at a time. That's enough. Don't do too much. Just do little bits. So one of his cards was always little bits of recovery. That's how eventually little bits become big bits. You keep putting them together inside of yourself. I always loved him and his slogans because all those slogans, those statements, those words helped me to be able to look at life totally differently and be able to realize the real gift of life and what it's really all about. And that's where the last part of the prayer, the wisdom to know the difference. Wisdom is a gift, and wisdom only comes through experience. Wisdom comes through struggle. Wisdom comes by learning. Life is a process. I look at my young interns over at Starting Point. They're in their last year before they get their master's degree. They have tremendous excitement about them. They're ready to start seeing clients and work on stuff, And one girl came in today and said to me, I got my first client. Oh, she kept going like this. She said, I said, you'll be okay, relax. But the bottom line is I'm learning something. I try to say to them, you did your book learning. Now your real education starts. The real education is going to be people opening and learning. One of my interns came up to me about 2 years ago and said to me, he gave me this client, Vince. What shall I do with him? I said, what do you mean? Well, every time he comes in, all he does is talk. I can't get a word in edgewise. I just sit there mesmerized. He goes on and on and on and on and on. And I said, well, maybe that client is there to teach you the value of listening. See how simple it is? Not complicated. What do I do with him? I said, nothing. Just listen. And encourage him. I said, and she said to me, this guy's been to all kinds of psychiatric programs, everything over the years and everything else. I said, all you got to do is tell him. We have a lot of 12-step meetings at Starting Point. Tell him to go to all of them. It'll make a difference. Just go. And then you listen to him every week and keep telling him to go to the meetings. And then after a while, he came back to her before she left, and she says, you know what, Vince? I learned a lot from that guy. He was pretty much with it. I learned a lot about life. I just used to sit there and just enjoy his stories and learn stuff from him. I says, good, now you know what it's about. You're developing and listening to the wisdom of experience, the wisdom of pain, the wisdom of struggle, the wisdom that comes as we go through the journey of life. And as a result, you're going to grow stronger as a result of it. And she said, you know what, Vince? He's got friends now. He loves the meetings. He's built friends. He goes to the diner. He has coffee with them. He has a good time. I said, see, you had a very successful client. Congratulations. But the success is not so much in the client. It's in you. That client was sent into your life to be your teacher. So maybe the simple little thing is just listen. That was one of Richard's slogans. Just listen and learn. Be open. Be open to listen and learn. Will things go the way you want them to go? Of course not. That comes down to the fact is And one of the slogans he talked about a lot was, remember, God has a sense of humor. And every time you think you have it all together, he reminds us that we don't. Isn't that wonderful? It's just amazing because it's part of the journey and part of life. All these beautiful little things are so simple and not complicated. And to realize the fact that, yes, hurt, pain, struggle, it's all part of it. It's part of the journey. I look at my grandson who's starting his journey at 20 years old. It's him and his wife, and they're out, they're going to bring the gospel to the world and this kind of stuff and everything else. And I say, go for it. Okay. Your experience is just starting. But I say, remember, part of learning and part of growing is also disappointment. It's also roadblocks. It's also getting over the hurdles. And that is part of this process of wisdom. The wisdom to know what to do and what not to do. The wisdom to be able to adjust to new things in life. The wisdom to be open to where life is going to take you. In that whole entire prayer, they talk about change. And change is part of the journey. One of the things I've learned over and over again is never be done. Who wants to be done? There's always something new and no place to go, another experience to go through. But to do that, you got to be able to live life with a sense of faith, a sense of belief, and know everything will go where it's supposed to go. Richard used to say, try to remember that in spite of us, everything will find its way. Beautiful slogan. It will find its way. Everything will work, but it will work in God's time. And if it's not supposed to work, then it won't work. My board of directors gets upset at me sometimes because I say things like, well, is this the end of starting point? I don't know. If it's supposed to be here, it'll be here. If it's not supposed to be here, then it won't be here. See how simple it is? So the process is we have no idea. There's no control. So you got to be open to it. And that's where faith and belief will take us where we're supposed to go. And sometimes, things happen which we know God puts us on patterns in life. We learn from the patterns. And the things don't always go the way you want them to go. I told you the story back in 1966 when I got ordained. I had my meeting with the bishop. And I informed the bishop that he was going to send me to the poorest parish in the diocese and make me a prison chaplain. I already made my plan. That was what I wanted to do. So, he listened. And he sent me to the richest parish in the diocese. He's a pain, can I tell you? But the bottom line is, it's the gift they gave me. He gave me a gift. Because it's through being in that parish, I ended up starting my recovery program in Al-Anon. If I had gone the other way, I don't know what would have happened. Who knows? See, it's just funny sometimes how if we're open, the higher power will lead us where we're supposed to go. But sometimes we're not all that open. Sometimes we got to get pushed. And sometimes something has to happen so that we can awaken. That was one of the slogans. It says, when you are ready, it will be presented to you. I just like the field of dreams. Build it and they shall come. Build it and they shall come. It's called faith. To be open to it. And I'm a true believer in that concept. I really believe that the energy of being positive brings us in so many powerful directions. And that's where wisdom comes from. It comes from the experiences of life. It comes from the scars, from the pain, from the hurt, from the struggle. But from the struggle, we learn how to adjust, how to move in new directions. Sometimes, most of us have that disease, the Italian disease called capatosa. Most of us, a little hard-headed, because we got to figure life out up here. How the hell are you ever going to do that? This thing will make you crazy. You're never going to figure it out. We look at the world around us and we see all the craziness, the insanity, the wars, the stuff going on, and we say, why is God doing all this? But it's not God doing all that, it's human beings doing all that. Because we're human beings. We get lost sometimes. We've got to be brought back. That's why my other very favorite movie, I love it, is The Lion King. I call it the recovery movie. Because in The Lion King, we have the circle of life. And what's so beautiful about that circle, every once in a while, we have a tendency to migrate and go do it on our own. I don't need the connection of others anymore. That was Simba, his guilt. All this thing, and how he dealt with it is by to run around and play and do everything. And finally, the higher power got tired of waiting for him, and he sent the messenger. He sent Rafiki with his stick, and he said to Simba, "Get your rear end back in the circle." And then he used Italian therapy on Simba. He smacked him over the head with the stick and pushed him back into the circle. Now, that's funny because I still laugh about some of this, and the journey of life takes you in a lot of different directions. I remember going back in the early days of the 70s and the 60s and working in a field of addiction. And I remember, some of the crazy, insane stuff that we did, how the guy wouldn't go to treatment, so they knock him out. And he'd wake up on the doorstep at the treatment center. They always brought him to the one he couldn't walk back from. Okay. So, for example, knock him out in Philadelphia and drop him off in Pittsburgh. So they used to have a lot of fun back then. We can't do that today, though. But that's the day that Pat would rattle me and I'd be in trouble. But it's all part of it. But, sometimes we have to look at these concepts, these little things of life. And that's why I look back and I reflect on all this, because I really believe very deeply in that prayer. That prayer is so simple and yet so beautiful. You get the opportunity to look at the entire Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Release them and the wisdom, courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference. Living life one day at a time. The prayer has so many things in it. Living life one day at a time. Being able to live life in a very simple and beautiful way. I love that concept. I love the whole thing. You connect it together. Because really what it's teaching us is that if we learn how to ask, there's an old saying in scriptures, you've heard it, seek and you shall find, knock and it shall be open to you. Faith. Faith opens doors. So in recovery, we learn that, we're not in this by ourselves. The thing I've learned over the years is it's very lonely when you try to do things by yourself. It doesn't work. We need to belong to a village. And recovery is a village. Believe me, it is. It's a village of fantastic people. I couldn't believe yesterday when I walked into that room for the anniversary meeting. And I got a round of applause when I walked in. And I got about 13 hugs right off the bat of people I haven't seen in such a long time. It was like a gigantic reunion. And some of the girls that went through my codependency groups and people from different parts. And one guy came up to me and he said, "Remember me? I met you at Mount Talbot Retreat, a good 15 years ago." Wow. I said, "You're still alive?" He said, "Yeah, that's good." And so we joked back and forth. It was just powerful to be there and be the speaker for the day and share some of the things. But it's a beautiful thing about life, because memories, connecting with people, realizing the fact you never know. So what you do is you walk your journey every day. You say your prayers every day. Open up your gifts to God. Each one of us is a gift. Even John's a gift too. It's unbelievable. It's a beautiful gift. That's the beautiful part about life. And so we connect with each other. We love one another. We're part of each other. We're part of a family. That's why one of the things I love in my recovery program, whenever we do, we have a custom that we have. So I'm going to ask you to participate in it with me right now. It's a simple custom. We always talk about what we call a recovery hug. Now watch me. Take your hands and put them around you. Give yourself a hug. Come on, Loretta, give yourself a hug. Okay. Now hold that hug real tight and then pass it out to everybody else. Put it out there and pass it to everybody else. See how powerful that is? We can even hug each other on Zoom. That's the beautiful part about life. You know, at our meetings 3 times a week, I get to do that. And then at my in-person meeting, I get actually to hug for real. It's pretty neat. That's the beautiful part about the journey. To be able to be part of each other, be connected to each other, because we are a circle. We are connected. We are bonded to one another. And so take some time and go through the Serenity Prayer. You get a copy of the long form, go through the long form. It'll take you through the process with it. Hang on, I'm going to read the long form for you. I have it over here. I'll be right back. I have to get my trusty little prayer book out. This is our Matt Talbot Retreat Prayer Book. It's got everything in it, all the prayers you want. But here's the one I love, the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living life one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as the pathway to peace, taking as the higher power did, the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that the higher power will make all things right if I surrender to God's will. And I'm reasonably happy in this life, and supremely happy in the world to come. I love that concept. And those slogans involved in the entire prayer, just totally amazing. One day at a time, accepting things as they are and adjusting to life. Isn't it funny when we look about, I just want to close it out with those 4 spiritual words. We're supposed to be where we are in our journey, no matter where it is. We also have to accept the reality of the life that we have, the reality of the world, the reality of things around us. And even though things may not go the way we want them to go, they're going the way they're supposed to go because there's lessons to be learned. There's always another lesson, another example, another way, another concept. It's all part of the learning process that we go through. And that's where wisdom comes into play. Somehow, some way, isn't it amazing? We get through things in the course of our journey in life. And so what I would recommend, as Richard recommended to me, say the Serenity Prayer 21 times a day. Good luck with that one. Remember, I was in a program. I was new in a program with my sponsor. And I learned back then is whatever your sponsor tells you to do, you do. The old timers taught me that one. Shut up and listen. I still love that. One of the slogans of the 4021 Club in Philadelphia was, shut your mouth and listen. In fact, I still remember Jerry. He was Jerry O. He was one of the founders of the beginners of Starting Point with me. And Jerry, if a guy would come in and start running his mouth, Jerry kept a roll of duct tape. He'd stick it over the guy's mouth and say, that's enough for today. Now listen. Just sit there and listen and learn. I just love it. There were always gimmicks they used to do, all kinds of crazy stuff. It was wonderful. That's part of the journey of life. So we're having experiences. Don't be afraid to go through them, okay? So I hope the Serenity Prayer becomes part of your journey and part of your life as a part of mine. And, And Pat does a beautiful job leading us in it at the end. So we'll kind of put all this together. So let us pray. God, we come before you in prayer. We ask the God of our understanding, our higher power, our divine presence. We come together and we ask you to give us the gift of serenity. Give us the gift of inner peace. Teach us to look within and to realize that as we go through this journey of life, we have to live it. And as we live it, we know that you will guide, you will be there. You'll help us through the times that get rough. You'll help us through the rough spots, but you'll get us through it. So we look at you with the gift of faith, the gift of trust, the gift of openness. Help us, guide us. And as you send messengers into our life, teach us to be open to them. Teach us to realize even the disappointments are also teachable moments. Teach us to always remember that you are our guide, our strength, you are our love. You are the fuel that keeps us going, that helps us to realize the gift that we are. So tonight, in a very special way, we come here in gratitude, we come here in love. We come here in gratitude for the gift of life, for the gift of the journey, for the gift of the individuals and people, and for the gift of those who have gone before us. We hope that we can pass on what we learned and carry the message to others so they can pass it on to others too. We pray and we ask this in guidance and direction, and we ask this in your name today and every day. Thank you, and may you bless us always. Amen.